Something is moving through the forests, deserts, and canyons of North America, and witnesses believe it may be Bigfoot. From violent tree shaking in the remote backcountry of Alberta to bone-chilling howls in California's Kern Canyon, from terrifying knocks deep in Washington's forest to the relentless rock-throwing that drove seasoned hunters out of Nordegg, the witnesses are different, but the pattern is the same. The stories we've gathered here span decades and thousands of miles. Campers, hikers, hunters, and even entire families describe the same encounters. Overwhelming silence before an approach, the smell of musk or decay, heavy footfalls circling from the tree line, and, when ignored, intimidation so forceful it drives even the most experienced outdoorsmen to flee. Some saw towering figures vanish into the timber. Others were pursued, chased, even screamed at as they barely escaped with their lives. Still others returned to find massive footprints and tufts of coarse hair left behind. Are these sightings proof that Bigfoot is more than just a legend? Are we dealing with a territorial species or something even more intelligent? And why do these encounters seem to be increasing? Ryan Layton doesn't scare easily, but for the past 13 years, the 39-year-old Utah native has been chasing something in the state's wilderness that makes even seasoned hunters hesitate to enter the forest after dark. He believes Bigfoot is real.
"This isn't a myth," Layton said quietly, his eyes narrowing. "I've seen too much. I've heard too many stories from people who weren't supposed to be scared. But were. These things are out there. They're watching us."
Layton, a self-employed entrepreneur, has never seen the creature himself, but he's walked the trails where others swear they locked eyes with something that defies explanation. He stood over massive footprints in the mud, heard guttural cries echoing through the mountains at 2 a.m., and listened to trembling voices recount encounters they wish they could forget.
"You'd be shocked how many Utahns have had close encounters," Layton said. "I've personally spoken with at least 30 or 40 people who looked one in the face. These aren't people seeking attention. Some of them still won't go back into the woods."
Most sightings share disturbing details. An unbearable stench that hits before anything is seen, animals reacting in sheer panic, and a towering shadow that seems to stalk from just beyond the tree line.
"Dogs that will run straight at a bear or cougar will turn and run from Bigfoot," Layton said. "I've seen horses bolt like they've been spooked by death itself. Whatever these things are, animals know. They know before we do."
80% of reported encounters happen at night, when the forest is at its most silent and unforgiving. Witnesses describe feeling watched, the kind of presence that raises the hair on your arms before your brain catches up.
"It's always the smell first," Layton said. "Rot, musk, like something that's been dead a week. Then you feel it, the weight of it, and you hope it stays in the shadows."
Some campers claim their trucks and trailers were violently rocked in the dead of night. Others describe something circling their camp, slow and deliberate, never coming too close but never leaving either.
"It's as if they want you to know they're there," Layton said. "But they don't want you to see them. That's worse somehow."
Skeptics demand proof, bones, fossils, a body. Layton understands, but he says the lack of evidence makes the reality even more disturbing.
"You'd think someone would have found a skeleton," he admitted. "But we haven't. And that tells me we're dealing with something smarter than we want to believe. Something that doesn't want to be found."
Some researchers have gone further, connecting the phenomenon to UFOs and extraterrestrial beings. Layton doesn't fully endorse the theory, but he doesn't dismiss it either.
"I can't rule anything out," he said. "We might be dealing with something introduced here. Something not from here."
There's a darker theory that's persisted for generations, particularly among those with deep ties to early Mormon history, that Bigfoot is Cain, cursed to wander the earth for eternity after killing his brother Abel. The story comes from an 1830s account by LDS apostle David W. Patton, who claimed he encountered a towering, hairy man. Layton doesn't believe the creature is Cain, but he understands why people cling to the idea.
"When you're out there and the woods go silent," he said, "it feels biblical. Like you're standing in the presence of something ancient, something that's been here since the beginning."
The Uinta Mountains are Utah's prime suspect. Their vast, rugged wilderness holds secrets few humans have ever uncovered. Native American lore adds weight to the theory. The Ute tribe speaks of a creature called Sasquatch, honored in cedar-burning ceremonies. There's even a place on the Ouray Indian Reservation where sightings have been reported for centuries, though the area is sacred and off-limits.
"There are petroglyphs out there," Layton said. "Depictions of hunters with feet far too large for their bodies. The message is clear. They knew. They've always known."
Elsewhere, reports keep coming in, tracks in Box Elder County. A shadow near gravel pits in North Salt Lake, something moving in the canyons of North Ogden.
People are terrified to go public with what they've seen, Layton said. They don't want to be laughed at, but the stories are consistent. Something is out there.
Layton's obsession began in 1980, when a series of sightings rocked the quiet town of South Weber. He promised himself then that he would get to the bottom of the mystery. He's seen footprints since. He's heard a scream in the Uintas that chilled him to his core, but he's still waiting for the encounter he both dreads and longs for.
I'd like to see one, he admitted. But part of me wonders if I'd survive it. These things don't want to be found. And if they don't want you there, you won't be there for long.
The glow of arcade screens flickered like distant galaxies in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Students Center. Young technocrats leaned over consoles, their fingers twitching across joysticks like nervous spiders, blasting pixelated alien invaders into oblivion. But only a few feet away, the games ended. Here, in a conference hall cloaked in fluorescent light and quiet tension, about 200 people gathered to discuss a kind of invasion they believed was real. They spoke not of fictional monsters, but of craft and beings they claim walk, or float, among us. This was the 12th annual UFO Symposium of the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, a civilian group obsessed with unraveling one of humanity's most unnerving mysteries: what happens in the sky when we're not looking. For some, the symposium was a reunion, friends swapping data and theories in hushed voices, the way soldiers might trade battlefield stories. For others, like Frank Peters, it was a chance to finally unburden themselves. Peters hovered at the edges of the crowd, a broad-shouldered man with a mustache and the deep, sleepless creases of someone haunted.
He wasn't a MUFON member, but he came anyway, clutching a story he could no longer keep to himself. "I've been living in a nightmare," Peters whispered. "Something has possessed me. I have to create. I have to." He told the story with unsettling clarity. Around 1960, he and a friend were camping in the woods of Highbridge, New Jersey, when a green orb the size of the moon appeared out of nowhere. It streaked silently toward the valley below, trailing a glowing tail. Moments later, a tree near their camp lit up with an orange halo, and an entire stretch of forest erupted in a searing, ghostly saucer shape made of fire. And then it vanished. 2 flashes lit up the sky. A second green orb descended. Fog began to pour into the field. The next thing Peters remembers, it was morning. 11 hours had passed. Neither man recalled sleeping. Since that night, Peters has been consumed by something he doesn't understand. He now lives in Plymouth, Massachusetts, inside an 18-foot trailer plastered wall to wall with cutout images, words, and diagrams he says he's compelled to create. He calls it an expose of life as it is. But the images, fragmented, chaotic, prophetic, look more like the ramblings of a mind touched by something it cannot name. "I can't go much further," Peters said, his voice cracking. "It's beyond me now." He muttered about Gene Autry and baseball teams, about messages hidden in the work. MUFON's leadership shifted uncomfortably. They'd seen this before. The way witnesses can become unstable, their lives reshaped by experiences no one else believes.
Betty Andreassen's account was among the most chilling. She claimed she was taken from her home in Massachusetts one January night in 1967 by beings she still insists were angels. Under hypnosis, she described being transported to another world, examined, and given cryptic messages meant for humankind. Now 44, Andreassen stood before the crowd with papier-mâché mock-ups of the creatures she said took her. The figures, eerily lifelike with their large, inhuman eyes, gave the gathering a science fiction air that some MUFON members resented. "That was my first belief," Andreassen said, "and I still believe it. They were angels." Her unwavering conviction rattled even the most seasoned researchers. Much of the symposium focused on government secrecy. MUFON members believe UFO cover-ups stretch back to the Roswell incident of 1947, when the Air Force claimed a crashed flying saucer was nothing more than a weather balloon. Thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, investigators have pried thousands of pages of classified documents from government agencies. The papers reference tracking unexplained craft, retrieving wreckage, and even biological entities. Still, no definitive proof has emerged, leaving MUFON's two leading voices, Hynek and physicist Stanton Friedman, at odds.
For months, cattle mutilations and mass stampedes have plagued farmers in Webster and Ozark counties. Theories swirled. Satanic cults? UFOs? Something worse? Now a third, even stranger explanation has surfaced. It's Bigfoot. The theory came from a reader in Raytown, Missouri, after he read about the recent cow stampedes that left farmers shaken and livestock dead or missing. He passed the columns to Cliff Labreck, a 53-year-old business owner in Raytown, who claims he encountered a Bigfoot in 1977. Labreck's story is disturbing. He says he tried to shoot the creature when he saw it, but before he could pull the trigger, it grabbed him. He swears it communicated telepathically, its voice filling his head with a single, chilling question: "What in the hell are you doing?" Labreck has studied the Bigfoot phenomenon ever since, and after reading about the Ozarks cattle events, he's convinced.
There's a tremendous aura of fear around these things, Labreck said. They radiate it. Animals feel it first. Horses will run through fences to get away. Cows will trample each other, anything to escape. Labreck believes the Ozark cattle stampedes, hundreds of cows across 5 farms panicking for a full 24 hours, match the pattern of Bigfoot activity. This is their migrating season, he explained. They move from southern marshes to northern lakes. The Ozarks are right in their path. Now is the perfect time for them to come through.
Farmers initially suspected a bear, but the attacks happened too quickly and across too many locations.
A bear couldn't be at 5 farms in one afternoon, Labreck said. But a Bigfoot? Oh, absolutely. They're the fastest creature on 2 feet.
The thought of something that fast, that strong, moving silently through the woods has unsettled residents. And while Labreck's theory is unconventional, it's no more far-fetched than the other explanations law enforcement has been chasing. For weeks, investigators suspected satanic cults were behind the mutilations. The timing seemed to fit. April 21st to May 1st is considered one of the most important ritual periods for cult activity.
Webster County Sheriff Bill John even asked that the information be kept quiet, fearing it would inspire copycats.
"We don't want to give anybody any ideas," said investigator John Nolan, who has led the mutilation case. "A lot of times with cult activity, you get people, kids mostly, who like to pretend. The last thing we need is more bodies."
What's huge, black, and covered in hair? What moves on 4 powerful legs yet can scale a chain-link fence with frightening agility? What prowls through the darkness in total silence only to erupt in bone-rattling roars that shatter the stillness of night? Diane and Roger King of Fort Mill, South Carolina, wish they didn't know.
"It's terrifying," Diane said, her voice low. "I was too scared to even look outside. I just wanted it to be gone."
The Thing, as the Kings now call it, visited their property 3 nights in a row a few weeks ago. Each time it appeared at the same hour, around 1 a.m., and lingered for hours, as if it had nowhere else to be. At first it stayed in the woods behind their home off Charlotte Highway, tramping heavily through the brush, snapping branches and clearing undergrowth with an almost purposeful strength. But soon, that wasn't enough. It climbed their fence.
"It's a tall chain-link fence and it went right over," Diane said, "like it was nothing."
Once inside the yard, the creature, or whatever it was, turned its attention to the children's swing set just feet from the King's home. The metallic clang of chains rang through the night as the intruder tangled itself in the swings. The knocks continued. Rawson tried to convince herself it was wind or coincidence, but then a third noise erupted.
"From my right side, I heard this violent smashing," she said. "It was wood on wood, but heavier, louder. I could hear bark coming off a tree. It wasn't a stick, it was like someone was breaking logs in half."
The other 2 knock sources went silent.
"That was it for me," she said. "I stopped playing the game. I got out of there as fast as I could."
Rawson says she smelled skunky odors on previous hikes but never thought much of it. Now she's not so sure.
"I know Washington has Bigfoot sightings," she said, "but I never imagined it could happen here. This isn't some endless wilderness. It's just a patch of woods."
She's right that the location is small compared to Washington's sprawling forests, but wildlife officials note that deer are plentiful in the area and cougars are occasionally spotted. The question is, what else might be living there? The incident is eerily similar to reports from rural communities in Missouri, South Carolina, and Utah, where residents describe hearing wood-knocking patterns deep in the woods, often followed by mutilated livestock or unexplained animal panics. The forest was silent when Amber Webster raised the spotlight. She and her husband, along with his cousin, had volunteered to help search for a missing 22-year-old hiker. The three had driven deep into the backcountry north of Sedona, 20 miles down a rutted dirt road, scanning the hillsides and canyons with powerful beams of light. It was after midnight when they saw it.
75 yards away, the light caught a figure, 7 feet tall, at least 400 pounds, wide shoulders. Its hair was matted, white and brown, but its face, it was bare, leathery, human, but not.
The eyes glowed in the spotlight's beam, a reflective gold, like the light was coming from inside.
It didn't move, it didn't blink, it just stared at us like it was deciding.
2 hours earlier, Webster had called the missing girl's name into the darkness. She had heard an answer, but not a voice.
2 hard knocks, wood against wood, far off in the trees. I joked, "Oh, hey, it's Bigfoot." I wish I hadn't said that.
The holiday weekend was supposed to be peaceful. Eric Butcher and his wife had driven from Bakersfield to the Fairview campground in the Sequoia National Forest to escape the fireworks and noise for the sake of their dogs. Nestled in Kern Canyon, 15 miles north of Isabella Lake, the campground was full but quiet, save for the distant sound of laughter from other campsites. Then the howls began. They were long, low, and carried across the valley. The sound echoed off the ridges. It would last for a while, then there'd be silence for a few minutes. Then another howl. We heard it at least 5 times. At first his wife thought it was a train. I told her there are no trains anywhere near here, and in the back of my mind I knew. I'd heard recordings before, it sounded exactly like them. Butcher recognized the sound from online archives of Bigfoot vocalizations, a chilling, moaning call known among researchers as the Ohio Howl. I joked with my wife about it being Bigfoot. She thought that stuff was ridiculous, so I passed it off as a joke. But the sound, it stuck with me. 2 seasoned hunters say they left one of their favorite spots for good after a night they cannot explain. The men had set up camp in the Blackstone Gap area, 1.5 miles north of Old Trapper's cabin, and were preparing dinner around 9:30 p.m. when something began moving in the tree line.
"It was about 25 yards away," one of the hunters said. "We thought it was a bear. We grabbed the shotguns and kept listening."
For 30 minutes the sounds persisted, heavy movement in the brush, pacing just outside the firelight. One of the men fired a round into the air, hoping to scare the animal off. The response was immediate.
Not 20 seconds later, a rock the size of a soccer ball came flying out of the bush and landed next to us, he said. Then a tree started shaking, violently, like something was trying to rip it out of the ground.
Another rock sailed out of the darkness, then another. The hunters say the barrage went on for nearly 20 minutes.
"In all, 17 rocks came at us," the witness said. "Big ones. Some you'd need 2 hands to lift. There's no way a bear did that. No way."
The evening was silent, unnaturally so. An 18-year-old woman and her friend had driven to the 12-foot Davis gravesite and picnic grounds overlooking the confluence of the Peace and Smoky rivers. The sun had just set. The woods surrounding the monument were quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against the eardrums.
"No birds, no wind, nothing," she recalled. "The hairs on my neck stood straight up. I should have known something was wrong."
She left her friend by the car and started toward the outdoor restroom. That's when she noticed the shadow.
"It moved along the wall of the building," she said. "I heard this heavy exhale like it was breathing out, and there was this smell, musky, overpowering." The building was pyramid-shaped, 8 to 9 feet tall. Whatever was standing beside it was nearly as tall. "I didn't even make it to the door," she said. "I turned to walk back to the car, then my friend yelled at me to run." The thing on all fours. She looked over her shoulder and froze. "This thing was crawling after me," she said. "It was down on its front arms with its rear end up, pushing itself along. It was only 4 feet away, sniffing at me, and it wasn't a bear." She could see its features clearly in the fading light. Coarse blonde hair, sparse on the torso but thicker on its long arms and legs. Its ape-like face had almost no hair except on its head, where the hair bristled like a horse's winter coat. "It was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen," she said. "I ran for the car and it was right behind me." She and her friend jumped inside. As they sped away, the creature rose up. "It stood like a human, not like a bear," she said. "It was furious, swinging its arms, screaming, chasing the car down the hill. We barely escaped. What was left behind." The next day, others went to the site after hearing her story. "They didn't find tracks," she said, "but they found tufts of hair, that was it. It's been decades since that night, but the memory hasn't faded. You don't forget something like that," she said quietly. Not ever. I can still see its face. I can still hear it screaming. We've only scratched the surface of what people are experiencing in the wild places of our world. What do you think is behind these encounters? Do they match anything you or someone you know has witnessed? Share your thoughts, theories, and experiences below. Every comment brings us closer to understanding what's waiting out there in the shadows.